welcome to TechFest Java. In this video we are going to discuss about Java 8 features called optional classes. So what is optional classes and how do we use it? We will discuss in this video. So what is optional classes? Optional classes are basically work like a container that will hold not null values. It is basically introduced in Java 8 to avoid a null pointer exception. So whenever we will this optional classes is basically used by programmer to avoid a null pointer exception in case of null values. We are doing operations on null values. So let's just start. Suppose that to demonstrate that I'm going to create one string object and mentioning as hello, and I'm going to create one more string object that is called string1 and I'm giving its value as null. Now I'm going to create one optional object, optional class reference as str optional, and here I am using Optional.of method. As we can see that in optional classes there are two static methods, which is basically one is off and one is off.nullable. So first let's see the demonstration of off. When we are using off basically can hold a null values. So but we can pass the null values. If we pass the null values, let's see what will happen. So I'm just copy pasting this statement one more time and defining this as the and passing here null value also, and I'm going to print this optional dot get. I'm taking this statement below this one. Okay, let's just run this code and see what the result comes. Okay, now if we can see here, when we are passing a string as hello in this Optional.of method and printing this statement in get, we are getting that value hello. But when we are passing a string which is holding a null value, and this value is providing a null pointer exception to me. Okay, suppose that if we are expecting that in that Optional.of method we are expecting that null value and we want to avoid this null pointer exception. So in place of using this Optional.of, we can use Optional.nullable. Now let's just run this code and see that what it will give. See, this statement doesn't throw a null pointer exception now. Okay, so but does it provide such a value? No, it is basically returning an empty string when it finds any null value in this, and Optional.of method will not providing a null empty optional. It is just returning a null pointer exception. Okay, now if I want to get this value, let's see what will happen when this 19th line statement will execute. We are getting a no such element exception because we don't have value in this null. But we are getting this value in here, right? So we can see that first statement is printing hello. For when it is returning line number 19, it is giving a error when we are trying to get that value, no such element exception. To avoid this no such element exception, what we can do, we can just write this statement like if this dot is present. So what it is present is basically checking that if it is having some value, then only this statement will execute. So let's run this code and see that what it will give. No exceptions is throwing now. So in this way we can avoid null pointer exception by using of_nullable and of_nullable method of optional class, wrapping into your expected null string on expected null object into optional, and then we are using this ifPresent and get method to do that notation. And here basically there are more other things also. Okay, now if we don't want to check this right thing, right, but if you want to avoid this no such element exception, so in that case we can write this statement something like orElse. Here we can provide this value like, and in this case this must be an string. So what it will do, orElse will basically check that if it finds any null value, then it will return hi in place of empty string. So let's just print and see what it will return. Okay, now run this code. See, it is not returning empty string, it is returning a else statement value. There is one more method called orElseGet. That is also a similar method. Basically doesn't have much difference. It's just that it is asking for supplier object. Let's just run this code. Okay, the same result will coming. Okay, now suppose apart from this, if we want to explore more about, there is one more method in optional, basically it's called, okay, let me just do one thing. I'm using this Optional.of. Okay, I'm removing this. Okay, now I'm wrapping this one to again this. I'm trying to get this. There's one more method called it is one. So here we can see there are multiple methods are there. Okay, and I'm going this empty. So if suppose that we want a empty optional, right? So we can use that empty method also. And if we want to throw, right, in case of this, right, if if we want to throw any exception, any custom exceptions, like if we found any null value in case of returning a empty optional, we can just throw an exception for new exception and passing value as no element found. So give me a sec. Okay, now it is looking out for what is this? Oh, perfect. Now if I will run this code, we can see that our custom exception will thrown when we are passing an null object in this orNullable method. So this way we can demonstrate that or use that optional classes by using, and if suppose that if you want to filter out something, right, whatever we are passing, like okay, I'm just doing a control Z of this code. Okay, now removing this part and now there is a one method called filter, right? So if we say that st dot to uppercase dot get, and here if we are passing not null value, that is 1. Okay, so here okay, I'm going to assign some local variable here st and going to print this st. I'll take it as str2 dot map t1 st. Okay, now dot or if I would not converting uppercase, I'm just going to demonstrate that okay, making it more simple. See, we can use the filter out, and suppose that if we are going to pass this as high, right, so we are passing a hello value which is obviously not equal to high. Then let's see what result we will get. We will get no such element. So this way there are lot of other methods also there. We can use those method also, like we can use ifPresent consumer. We can pass the consumer object, and let's see that if that is present in an optional, and then we can use that. And there is a empty, which is basically providing an empty optional, empty. And okay, now let's demonstrate this one also. Suppose I am going to create one more string for str3. Now I'm taking it Optional.empty. I am wrapping this into a string object. Okay. Okay. Now if I'm going to use this, let's see what it will print. So for that, what I'll do, I'll print in this way. Okay. It will give no such element exception, line number 19. Fine. I am passing this hello. Okay. To execute this statement, because it was giving error before that. Okay. Now line number 23, we are getting this. Why? Because we are passing empty, and on empty, if we are trying to get anything, it will give no such element exception. So this is a whole demonstration of optional classes. We can use optional classes to avoid null pointer exceptions in our code, and wrap not null values into an optional, and from optional we can do more operations, as it is providing more useful methods for that. That's it in this video for that optional classes. If you like this video, please like, subscribe my channel, and comment on this video.